So you found the skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, Dapper Dinosaur here, with of course, the one, the only, the inestimable Jackson Wheat. That's right, you cannot estimate him.
Can't be estimated.
Exactly. So, before we get going, there's a little bit of news. It is technically channel news, but it's not coming for a while. So, I found out that just recently, a recording of a Dwayne T. Gish lecture has been uploaded to YouTube. Now, here's the thing about Dwayne T. Gish lectures. As far as I know, the only way to get them, was to buy the cassette that was recorded on site at the venues where he gave his lectures to be sold at that event. And there was no, wide distribution. So, Cindy Lincoln had one of these cassettes. Apparently, she thinks she has about 9 more. So, I spent my day plopping that audio, which was really low quality, into some audio editing software. And I now believe that I have the best quality copy of a Dwayne Gish lecture in existence. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not very high quality, but it's the best one. You know, it's like being the tallest ant. Like, okay, great. Did you know that elephants exist? So,
Tallish turd.
basically. So, that will be the subject of some videos coming up in the future.
Elephants?
What's up?
Turds?
What? The Dwayne Gish lecture.
Oh, I'll get that, yeah.
Alright, so, but that's not really what we're here for. We are here to talk about Jackson Wheat with, we're here to talk about Charles Jackson with Jackson Wheat, not about Jackson Wheat. I mean, we could talk about Jackson Wheat a little bit. Like, Jackson, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Alright, good. We just talked about you.
Oh.
Alright, so, for these Tuesday shows, we have some drinking rules. Now, of course, we do not actually encourage you to, go get drunk. Drink with moderation. These rules are just for fun. Also, you are playing along just as validly if your liquid of choice has no ethanol in it. That's perfectly okay. As long as you have a liquid of choice. Jackson.
Wow.
Vandelli1998 asks, was that the guy who was the Kent of his day? No, Dwayne Gish was a little bit more professional, but other than that, yeah, he was basically the same thing.
Invented the Gish Gallop, which Kent Hovind has refined to an art style.
True. Sorry, got a little cough today.
A good book by Donald Prothero. It's Evolution, What the Fossils Say and Why It Matters. I've only read the second edition. I imagine the first edition is good too. But the second edition, he talks about a debate that he had back in the 90s. Gish. And Prothero went first, and he talks about how all these transitional dinosaur fossils, like the prosauropods and things like that. And then, he does his intro down. Gish gets up, says, there are no dinosaur transitional fossils.
Because he had a script that he never varied from.
Yep.
Okay, so, so the drinking rules are that when Jackson Wheat, Charles Jackson, damn it, Jackson, I'm too used to saying
Jackson Wheat.
With Bad Jackson, because that's the thing we've established before.
Right, yeah.
When it's too many Jacksons.
More hair than me.
When Bad Jackson says something that's too stupid for us not to, we drink so as not to melt our brains. If he says something that's actually factually accurate, but that he's not just quoting from someone, we take a drink in astonishment. If he, if he tells an anecdote that we're pretty sure didn't actually happen, we take a drink. If he, if he tells a joke that doesn't land, we take a drink. Anytime that he mentions the the National Socialist German Workers' Party or any of the prominent figures in that party, we take a drink. We take
a second, but all right.
we take a drink whenever Jackson laughs about the thing that isn't technically a joke after he finally gets it.
Ow.
Oh, burn.
Wow.
We take a drink if one of us can successfully predict an upcoming argument while proclaiming that it's a drink trigger. Also, we take a drink if Mothra or Godzilla come by, which they do. And if you're a channel member, you can make that happen with an easy super chat with a Godzilla or Mothra or a King Ghidorah emoji. Also, if you were here last week from Matt with Maddie, there's a secret phrase that if you're super chatted also got a drink, whether or not you're a member. So if you can remember that and you can super chat that, that'll get at least one drink. Because currently that situation is somewhat resolved, but I expect that to not persist if anyone remembers from last week. Anyway, Jackson. Good Jackson. Are you ready to dive back in?
Dude.
All right, here we go.
When you point it out. But yet these stories are paraded out as rock-solid evidence that evolution must be the way.
So he's talking about various observed instances of evolution, including bacterial, the acquisition of immunity to various antibiotics. Goodness, I can't talk today. By bacteria, things like that. Resistance to those. Sorry. You know what it is? Listening to 2 hours of Gish as I edit the audio, which means that I have to listen to like 2 hours over the course of like 4 hours. It's probably scrambled my brain.
Yeah, I could imagine.
So here we go. Bad Jackson, take it away.
And they're as flimsy as a tissue paper castle. It's ridiculous. Well,
this is the thing. Or this is the thing we talked about, or we didn't talk about last time.
Right, because in case you didn't notice, this is Jackson with Jackson 2, parentheses 2.
Okay, so to harken back to for anyone who wasn't there last time, he says a tissue paper castle. This would have been the absolute perfect moment to use the biblical phrase, like a castle on
build your house on rock, not on sand.
House on sand, yeah. And he didn't use it. He didn't opt to go like the super common build your house on sand, tissue paper castle instead.
Yeah, I feel like if you can make a biblical illusion and it works, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Look, biblical illusions are cool, whether or not you're like a Christian or Jewish or anyone who takes the book seriously as a spiritual thing. Only because it's cool. It's cool for the same reason that like quoting Shakespeare is cool. Because really smart people memorize that stuff for no particularly good reason other than to look cool. And it does look cool because a lot of it has like profound sounding stuff, and a lot of it is profound. So make the allusions to the Bible, guys. Especially though, if you're going to be like a Christian apologist. Come on. Anyway, Bad Jackson.
Emotional. Let's go on and get into the stuff. Okay, adapting to new circumstances as they go in a limited way. Okay, their inherent variability, and they are very variable in their DNA.
That's true. Although, does that count as him reading it?
There's no. Which part was he reading? The capacity for quick. Which part was he reading? Oh, their inherent variability allows him to find ways. It's kind of like he started in the middle of his highlight, why? But whatever. Maybe it's not his highlight. I don't know. Allows him to find new ways of evading human immune systems. Yeah, that's so this article. So this is from a National Geographic article, which is about the more recent evidence for evolution, and so it gives a whole bunch of examples, and probably get to them shortly. But one of them is antibiotic resistance. So yeah, pretty much everybody in the biomedical field considers like bacteria mutating generate novel proteins evolution. So He doesn't, I guess, and his word. So whatever.
Allows them to find new ways of evading and defeating the human immune system. But they're not finding new things. It's starting to stretch it here, and now it breaks.
Oh, actually, they are, because it mentions, it mentions penicillin, and the next on the second side of that. Biologist Stephen Columbia's calculated cost of treating penicillin and methicillin-resistant staph infections. So, penicillin and methicillin, these are molecules which are coming from like fungi, which they contain beta-lactams. So basically, you're preventing these molecules which are preventing the bacteria from fixing its cell wall. It has to make peptidoglycan, all these little cross links, and that's what forms its cell wall. But beta-lactams get in there and prevent the enzymes from coming in and fixing the cell wall. And so, penicillin, when it was first introduced in the 40s, or either late 30s or early 40s, was super duper effective at treating all these different microbes. It's not anymore, at least not in the original version, because we used it for so long. We wiped out all the strains of staph and Enterobacter and those other guys who were not resistant, and that placed selective pressure on other ones to develop mutations which could prevent the action of the beta-lactam. That is what led to these bacteria developing enzymes called beta-lactamases. Basically, it's in there and removes those beta-lactams so they can repair cell wall. So that's these are enzymes that weren't previously there, mutations that weren't previously there, and you can compare the different strains and see they differ. Now they have them. No, Dapper, does that sound like evolution to you?
It does. It also sounds like I need to institute a new drink trigger, which is if Jackson can go for more than 3 minutes while continuing to say smart stuff, we take a drink. I'm going to take the inaugural drink.
Yeah. And now there's like an entire group. There's a whole group of what are called nosocomial bacteria. They're unified by this little acronym. I think it's ESCAPE. It's just like a whole bunch of them that you can get in hospitals. That's what nosocomial means.
Yay.
So you get infected in hospitals, because places which are supposed to be super clean. So go ahead. Sorry.
All right, so we have a super chat from Maynard Saves for $5 US. Says, "Great work, Dapper and Jackson." Although there's a period after Dapper, so it's a new sentence. Just kidding. I'm just being a jerk for no reason. Goop23 for $5, also US, says, "This is why you have to take all the antibiotics that you're prescribed." Yes.
Yes, it is.
Do not let the slightly resistant bacteria be selected for. Get rid of them too.
Right.
All right, let's go with more bad Jackson.
Finding new ways of evading and defeating the human immune systems by natural selection. Well, that would be true. They acquire. Okay, there you go. Now we've got a lie. They never acquire anything. Natural selection can't cause anything to acquire anything. Natural selection picks and chooses from what is already there. That's
true.
Okay, but how about this? I'm going to push back and say natural selection can cause something to acquire something. You ready for this? Natural selection can cause a population to acquire a new fixed allele. Boom.
Sure. I'll grant you that one.
There you go. I'm going to take a drink to celebrate because, I figured it out.
I mean, absolutely. I think there was. I think it's something we touched on, not in the last one that failed, but in the one we did.
Yeah.
There's a difference between how different authors use the term natural selection. Does natural selection also encompass the mutation and recombination stuff?
Yeah.
That included under natural selection? is it its own separate thing?
I
So
try
is
not to
natural
include
selection-
it, but not all authors do.
I don't either. It's just personal preference because I look at it more like step by step. Yeah, variation, recombination, eukaryotes. These things are inevitable, and so So it just depends on whether or not you.
I have to acknowledge something. So, the Venerable Bede, who is one of my patrons, so first I want to say thank you very much, Venerable Bede. That really means a lot. Said, my grandma got a hip replacement this morning, and she is already walking and feeling better. She literally had no cartilage left and cried constantly. Well, I am very happy that that surgery went well and that your grandmother is much more comfortable. Because, like, man, I know what it's like not to be able to walk because of an actual medical problem that is not going to be solved anytime soon. And even then, it did not hurt as much as when you need a new hip because you don't have any cartilage left in your hip socket. It's not nearly that bad. But even what I did was probably the worst actual, like, long-term experience that I went through in terms of, like, those months where, like, my daily routine was, like, get on the city bus, have some old lady get out of the handicap seats for me because of a giant leg brace on, and then get to the hospital where I can't get to my physical therapy appointment on time unless I get a wheelchair because I can't walk fast enough. Yeah, that was, like, the shittiest few months, actually. Yeah,
It was.
so I am very glad that your grandmother is no longer in a situation like that. So, congrats. Anyway, Bad Jackson. It's time for Bad Jackson. I can actually keep it straight that way. Bad Jackson and Good Jackson. And I realized the problem is because I like to call both of you Jackson, but I always follow the word Jackson with the word wheat, like, almost all the time.
Good. Let's keep it that way. No.
Oh, so then I could say Charles Jackson Wheat.
That's what I said earlier, wasn't it? Before we started, Charles Jackson Wheat.
That would be his name if you two got married.
Wait. You think he would take my name?
It would hyphenate it. Charles Jackson Wheat.
I can appreciate that he is like egalitarian enough in our relationship to hyphenate his name for me.
Well, I mean,
appreciate that.
we'll presume that you would do the same thing, so you could be Jackson Wheat Jackson.
Or wait, would I be Jackson Jackson?
That would be up to you. You can choose whose last name takes priority.
J squared wheat.
All right, here we go.
All it can do, the concept demonstrated scientifically, is limited to that. Picking. That's why the word selection. It's picking.
Now, I generally agree that if you're strictly speaking about general or natural selection, it's not the mechanism by which new traits arise. But all that requires then is that there be such a mechanism. And let me check. Is there such a mechanism, Jackson?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
So it
one,
can't.
actually.
Oh, more than one. We only needed one.
There's several.
Oh,
Crazy
well,
world.
that's handy. How many of them are created heterozygosity, Jackson?
Exactly 0.
Okay.
Less than 0, in fact. Actually, every time someone uses the word created heterozygosity, a new mechanism of evolution appears.
Ooh. Nice.
They can't acquire new resistance to drugs that should kill them. And here it comes. They worked you all the way up, and here it comes. They evolve.
Mm-hmm.
They just pulled a rabbit out of the hat there. It's a
What? I'm gonna count that as a joke that didn't land and also as just being stupid.
I mean, maybe he'll mention that mutations happen shortly. I don't
know. But it's just like, see, the stupid thing about this article is that they list a whole bunch of things that are encompassed in evolutionary theory, and then they explain it as evolution. Like, yes, that is what happens. You figured it out, Dr. Jackson.
You got him on the run. Yeah.
Let's shut it down. The creation is snow. Evolution is evolution. Oh my goodness.
magic trick. They evolve. And now look, there's no better or more immediate evidence supporting the Darwinian theory than this process.
I mean,
This is kind of subjective, but
Yeah.
it's a pretty darn good one, I would
yeah,
say.
it's really good. I don't know that it would be my top, but I have biases. So does this author. So do you. So, while I wouldn't personally agree, I also don't think that that's something that's contentious enough that I would argue about it.
Sure.
a forced transformation among our inimical germs. Look at what they just said. That the best evidence for evolution in that whole article, and as far as they're concerned, in the whole world, is bacteria evolving resistance to antibiotic drugs.
Okay, I just hate it a little bit that he's using this article, which isn't a paper, it's just an article, and editorializing in it as somehow, like, representative of science. Not that I even, like I said, necessarily would contest the claim. It's just, don't misrepresent an article as proclaiming the consensus of science about what the best evidence for evolution is. Like, what would... I don't even think there is such a consensus.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, what is your favorite evidence of evolution? Ask 10 biologists, you'll get, 11 answers. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you want? My personal favorite, if I may, is
Go for it.
the fact that there are species gradients. There are whole species complexes where you have a whole bunch of these very similar species all living in sort of similar geographic areas with ever so slight niches. Like maybe one is like slightly longer than the other or has slightly different color patterns, something like that. I think stuff like that is really cool, and you can't argue that it's created. I mean, I guess you could, but it'd be really hard. But creationists tend not to. They're like, oh yeah, a bunch of heliconius butterflies with very similar, patterns and whatnot. Yeah, okay, well, fine, we'll accept that. Or a bunch of fish species all within the same genus, and they look very similar. Okay, fine, whatever. That's evolution. That's speciation. Diverging in different similar niches. So.
Well, we didn't make it to 3 minutes, but it was still a pretty good run.
Are you timing me for every one?
Only if I notice that you've been going for like more than, I don't know, like 30 or 40 seconds.
I know, all my answer is going to be like single sentences. I'm just going to say wrong because I said so.
No, it's
Next.
a good thing if you can do it. That's why I said it's for you saying going the whole time without saying any not smart stuff. If you started saying dumb stuff, I would also cut off the timer.
What if I throw in one dumb thing like somewhere in the middle?
Depends on how intentional I judge it to be. It's entirely subjective to me. You can't game it because anything that you do that I find to be gaming it, I'll just ad hoc make a rule. There's no rule book, Jackson. You can't see that. You can't actually go see it. These are just rules in a loose sense. I mean, one of them is we take a drink when it's too stupid. It's completely subjective. I do that literally whenever I want.
My favorite is still the take a drink when it's an everyone claps moment.
Yup. They happen so much in these, man.
They do. Creationists are the absolute kings of and then they clapped moments.
There should be an entire subsection of r/that really happened that's just for creationists.
Hovind alone would be like half the gallery.
All right, here we go.
Good. If that's the best they've got, good. Good. Let's go on. Do germs evolve? No. Bacteria cannot evolve resistance to antibiotics.
I mean, you literally just showed them doing it, so I'm going to take a drink.
Yeah.
It's like, hey guys, look at this. Bacteria evolving. Antibiotic resistance. No, they can't do that. Oh, okay.
Next.
Let's go on here.
I don't think math is a science. I think it's a religion.
A religion?
Yeah, all these equations.
Okay. Put 1 in the chat if that is how in your brain Calvin and Hobbes sound, and a 2 in the chat if that is like the exact opposite of how they sound in your brain. I can tell you, I would have a 2 in that one.
Yeah, that's a 3 for me, Dapper.
My goodness. All right. Let's keep going with this Calvin and Hobbes reading. Even though
illegal.
I know. Look, if no one laughs at the end of it, we're going to count it as a joke that didn't land and drink for it.
Okay.
Are like miracles. You take 2 numbers, and when you add them, they magically become 1 new number. No one can say how it happens. You either believe it or you don't. This whole book is full of things that have to be accepted on faith. It's a religion.
And in the public schools, no less. Call a lawyer.
As a math atheist, I should be excused from this.
I mean, I actually do find it amusing.
Yeah,
mostly
okay, wait,
because of how much it makes fun of creationists.
Yeah, I do want to hear if does he have follow up to this? Because
I
if
don't
not,
know.
I have a comment.
But I will say, the audience did laugh. Also,
It did
getting a
laugh,
lot of
but-
twos.
Yeah. Also, okay, so he's either going to understand this comic or he's not, and I'm very curious to hear which one it is.
I'm gonna predict that he will. I'm gonna
Think
go out
he
on a
will
limb
understand.
and predict that he will, and if he does, we take a drink.
I don't know. I don't know. Given that this is his follow up, I don't know. We'll find out.
Look at it's a prediction. You can disagree with it. You might even be right.
Textbooks. The stuff they put in textbooks, all the legal battles are usually over textbooks. Texas,
He didn't get it.
California.
No, I don't think he got it.
I don't think so either. Damn.
I don't think.
Matt Jackson, my man, why would you do this to me? How could you? I
Oh no.
thought we were in this together, man. Oh, all right. Well, now I'm gonna have to be mean to Dr. Jackson here. Here we go.
All these other state court cases and state adoption of textbooks. Evolution is a religious belief. This is, how many ever seen this textbook?
I'm just drinking for the random statement. Evolution is a religious belief with absolutely nothing surrounding it to back that up.
Yeah, I think he. Is this man like taking a math class? Does he like understand why?
Why
it
that's funny?
works?
Because it's only funny if you think you, there, Bad Jackson, are ridiculous.
It's like what?
Yeah.
So that is a very common textbook Kenneth Miller has written. Who is evolutionary biologist, microbiologist. He was probably well known beforehand in the scientific community, but he came to the public sphere during the 2004 Kitzmiller versus Dover trial. He was one of the what would you call it? Someone brought in
expert witnesses.
expert witness. Yeah, he was brought in to be like, yeah, evolution's true. One of my favorite instances, actually, probably my favorite. I don't know. The ruling by Judge Jones was also pretty awesome. But Michael Behe asks, "Where's the evidence that the immune system evolved?" And Miller and others present him with like 10 textbooks, have chapters on the evolution of the immune system, and Behe just summarily responds, "No, not enough."
I just want to take a moment to thank my channel members and my patrons. Well, that was me misclicking on OBS, so you're welcome for that, everybody. Jackson, you probably didn't notice anything. But the audience did, and it was not what they were supposed to be seeing at the time.
They're looking at you.
I clicked the end credits and I went back to this, but I had forgotten to turn off the opening scene, so then the opening started. It was a whole little fiasco in miniature. Anyway,
back to the video.
this is why I need to get like a few people to pledge $100 a month on Patreon, so I can just use it to hire a producer. Or to pay rent. One of those two things. Anyway, here we go. More Brad Jackson.
This high school biology textbook. It's probably the most popular high school biology textbook in the United States. Author, Dr. Kenneth Miller, a evolution Sith Lord, Evo atheist evangelist.
Whoa, hold on.
Wow.
Hold on a second. Nope. No, he's not. The Catholic.
Yeah, also, for calling him a Sith Lord, I'm just taking a drink because that was a joke and it did not land. It was terrible.
1 sec. I gotta close the door again because dang cat.
No worry. While Jackson is taking care of his cat, I want to tell everyone a little bit of news. So, you may remember that I had Cindy Lincoln on not that long ago. And I also want to say thank you for everyone who shared that, because that video is still receiving significant amounts of views, and people are becoming aware of Cindy's situation and stuff like that. But there is an update. So I got a text from Cindy Lincoln this morning, and she does have a GoFundMe set up because she is going to be attempting to sue Kent Hovind for return of the property that, according to her, was lent to DAL and that has not been returned. Now, she's not expecting to get all of that money back, but she's expecting to get some of it back. So that GoFundMe is linked in the description. Now, I know that the last time I said that there was a GoFundMe linked in the description, it turned out that the person who said they had cancer didn't. Although, to be fair, she did refund all the money, or at least I believe she did. If you didn't get that money back, let me know. So I'm hesitant with this. However, it is someone who, like, Kent Hovind is convicted of a crime against this person. So I feel like the fact that I've seen the court record lends it an air of legitimacy to me. Whereas if someone said, hey, I've got cancer, at this point I'm going to say, like, yeah, let me see the medical records. Because I got burned on that once before. But, yeah. So it's not a sure thing that she's going to win. If she does, it probably won't be all the money, but I do think that she's likely to recover some. And yeah, if you want to, that is linked in the description. Bad Jackson.
I've met Dr. Miller, debated with Dr. Miller. He's very smart and very mean, and he's willing to lie in front of an audience if he thinks no one can catch him.
Wow, that's a whole heap of projection. I'm taking a drink.
Talking to the mirror? That moment?
Yeah, he needs to get a job at a lighthouse because he's really good at projecting.
Miller, from everything I've seen of Dr. Miller, he seems like a very stand-up, sincere, nice guy. Now, look, that may not be the case. He could be an absolute jerk in his, private life, whatever. I don't know. But from all the interviews I've seen with him, the debates I've seen, don't know where the idea that he's a mean dude comes from.
It's projection. I'm like 80% confident that's where that comes from. It's just projection. The other 20% would be like inferiority complex on the part of Charles Jackson.
I mean, also, Kenneth Miller is like mostly Catholic, written a couple of books on like relationship between science and religion.
And he's pro-religion being Catholic, I presume. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, where did you get atheist Sith Lord from?
Because it's the opponents of young Earth creationism are all evil, godless heathens of the worst kind, right? Only bad people, and according to Charles Jackson, atheists are going to be under the bad people category. Only bad people believe in evolution.
Living in our tissue castle over here, Dan.
Hey, I at least put some plaster of Paris between the layers of tissue paper. So, got that going for me. All right, here we go.
That's the gentleman we're dealing with. And this is the most popular biology textbook in the country. Let's see what we can see inside here. Why is understanding evolution important? Because evolution continues today, driving changes in the living world such as drug resistance in bacteria and viruses, and pesticide resistance in insects, and herbicide resistance in weeds. He just didn't mention that.
Thanks for giving us another example. That's true. I'll take a drink.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah. Thanks, I guess.
Well, we developed new weed poisons and new antibiotics and new bug sprays, and darn if these super bugs, these resistant cockroaches don't just evolve. Yeah. That's not what's really.
How much money do I have to pay to never hear Charles Jackson say, yeah, ever again? Because if I have that much.
When he opens the pickle jar.
Oh, God. If I could never hear that again, that would be nice. That would be worth some significant amount of money.
Someone, like, is it? GIF is the silent one, right? What's it called when it's like a repeating video that has sound? Is that also a GIF?
I think it's Russian. I don't know. I think they invented that, and I don't know what they call it because it's probably in Russian.
It's like there's like little repeating clips, and it'll be like one little thing. If someone could make that, yeah, like, yeah,
No, don't do that.
and post it on Twitter,
I will block you.
Dapper Die. No.
Will personally block you.
Send it to me. I'll send it to him.
I'll block you too, Jackson. I have your phone number. I don't care.
Get a text from me, and you'll be like, "What is it? Oh no!"
I'll just know never to download anything you send me. Ever.
Embed it. Text message.
All right, here we go.
happening. What they do is they give it to people like this is Darwinian evolution, and that isn't. It's the furthest thing. It's natural selection.
Imagine thinking that the mechanism that Darwin proposed was somehow connected to Darwin. What a world! I'm just taking it. I can't with that.
Talking about Erasmus Darwin.
Like, literally, the entire point of the origin of species was like, hey guys, how about natural selection, right? It's the entire book. I've read it like twice. That's the point of it.
The
Oh
thing
my-
that's so funny about, like, he's literally just saying no.
Yeah, there's no...
Produced no argument.
The closest he's come to an argument is, well, natural selection isn't a mechanism for the arrival of new genetic variation, and it's just like, correct. That's
It's like, look,
yeah. Okay.
We'll grant that, sure.
Let's get some more Bad Jackson in here. Oh man.
Let's go on and see. Do germs evolve? No. Bacteria can't evolve.
That's literally what you just said. I'm taking a drink as a prediction. You were like, he just says no. And that's exactly what he did.
Already immune. Okay.
Yeah, okay, so we got arguments coming.
Somebody in the back.
I'm sorry.
He's at the edge of the argument.
Oh, that we might actually be stepping foot on like the plateau
Yes.
of Mount Jackson that has some actual, well, Mount Charles Jackson, let's be clear, that has some actual point to it. Even though I just said it was a plateau, F. It's a plateau with a central peak inside.
Yeah.
I'll model it later in 3D.
Shouldn't make a mountain out of a molehill.
Ah,
Bacteria crowd is already naturally immune. And let's say you've got 1 million bacteria coursing through your bloodstream.
that seems low, but okay.
All right. That's
And they're
something
making you sick. Okay.
Oh, and making
they,
me sick.
They give you an antibiotic, which is a poison that kills.
Oh, that reminds me. One time, my brother almost became like fully septic. Before we got him to the hospital, I got to watch a weird discoloration crawl up the veins on his arms. That was gross. Yeah, he almost died.
Right.
But then he didn't.
Well, that's good. Glad to hear
I
it.
agree. Yes, it is good. I would be sad if my brother had died. Anyway.
The bacteria. That's why they always tell you to eat food with your antibiotics. You know, take it with a meal because they'll give you a little bit of an upset stomach.
Because it kills the bacteria in your stomach?
That's like, wait, hold on. Did I just hear that right? Does he think you eat food? Because, what?
Okay, I'm going to back it up a little bit.
Oh, yeah, maybe I need to hear that in its entirety again, because I'm like, what?
Okay, hold on. When I went back 10 seconds.
That kills the bacteria. That's why they always tell you to eat food
We need to go
with
back
your
like 20
antibiotics.
seconds.
Yeah.
And they give you an antibiotic, which is a poison that kills the bacteria.
Oh, that's true. I'm going to take a drink for it. Antibiotics are poisons for bacteria. I mean, that's literally the point of them. So, yeah.
That's why they always tell you to eat food with your antibiotics. You know, take it with a meal because they'll give you a little bit of an upset stomach. It'll kill the bacteria, but it may give you a little queasy stomach. So you're supposed to eat.
Apparently, this is what I'm getting from this, and this is meeting Bad Jackson more than halfway here. I'm being extremely generous in my Steelman here. I think the argument is that because antibiotics are poisonous to bacteria, they are also mildly at least poisonous to you, because otherwise, how would they poison the bacteria? Because apparently, Dr. Charles Jackson isn't aware that different organisms have different metabolisms, and some poisons are not at all poisonous to some organisms, but are extremely toxic to other organisms. Here's a fun example. Roundup is a extremely toxic chemical to virtually all plants because it shuts down their ability to conduct photosynthesis. You know what it does to all vertebrates it's been tested on? There's been one statistically significant result in all of the tests of Roundup on vertebrate test subjects. It might slightly increase the lifespan of male mice. That is the sum total of toxic effect, if you can call it that, of Roundup. Because you know what vertebrates tend not to do very much? Yeah, photosynthesis.
Photosynthesize.
Right.
Yeah.
So similarly, if you have an antibiotic that does something like, break down a bacterial cell wall, well, you know what none of your cells have is a bacterial cell wall. So good job. It's not going to affect you. Now, I will say, though, that, yeah, it is probably the case that many antibiotics do have some effect that, your body's not used to, and you're going to get a little queasy. But, also, that's not advice with all antibiotics. It's actually generally not terrible advice with medicine in general. For one thing, sorry, if your digestive system is currently, active because it's trying to digest things, one of those things would be the medicine. But,
increase your uptake.
Yeah.
Right? Or your speed your rate at uptake. Yeah.
Right. So that's a good reason to take medicine with food. And, some medicines may make you queasy, but that the fact that it's poisonous to bacteria is not why it might do so. Oof. All right, here we go.
Eat something with it. It's a poison that kills the bacteria, and hopefully doesn't kill you.
I'm not aware of any antibiotics that are potentially lethal to humans. Are there any that you know of?
The frick?
Tell you what, if you guys can report a potentially lethal antibiotic to humans that is used in medicine for the treatment of bacterial infections,
Lawyer.
let me know and put a citation in the comments. Don't make it a hyperlink. You'll have to type in the article or something, right? The name of the article. But yeah, link tell me about that in the comments, because I would be fascinated to know of any antibiotic that could realistically be taken in doses that you would end up actually dying before you, I don't know, just threw up because of the sheer volume you were consuming.
Right. Yeah. Because that's that'd be a good time to call a lawyer and get a lawsuit going.
Yeah.
To,
why would you be taking that many antibiotics?
Pharmaceutical company.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, spoilers, you might not think this is true, but it actually is the case that pharmaceutical companies tend not to sell drugs in quantities where the recommended amount has a fair chance of killing you. Because
they try not to sell lethal doses.
Right. Because they like this thing called return customers. It's really hard to keep buying the pharmaceuticals if you're dead.
Yep.
Okay, here we go.
And it's the bacteria more sensitive to it. And when your whole
bacteria, there, Dr. Charles Jackson. Basically, anytime he says something that stupid, I'm just going to remind you that this man has a doctorate
in something.
It doesn't matter. If you hold a doctorate, you should be able to know the correct plural for the word bacterium.
Doctorate in underwater basket weaving.
Even then, you should have had to have some science elective somewhere.
Maybe, I don't know. Fair enough.
Body is just one cell. If one of your cells gets sick, you die. So
yeah, no, that's his implication. The antibiotics are just as poisonous to you, apparently. There's just not as much of the bacteria as there are of you. So basically, antibiotics are chemo. They're just like a weak form of chemo. They target the bad cells that you don't want, but they're also going to kill off all your regular cells, so you got to be careful. That is the actual argument here.
Right. Okay.
My goodness. I want to know if Charles Jackson thinks that if he took too many antibiotics, his hair would fall out.
That's why he only takes air supplements.
So that's how it works. But
Is that how it works?
it's not. I'm gonna take a drink. My goodness.
Oh no!
Wow. I honestly did not.
He followed it up with "That's how that works."
I honestly did
just-
not think we were gonna get antibiotics. Basically, just our weak chemotherapy today. Oh man. Oh, so apparently, fluoroquinolones have some rare but disabling side effects. Well, that is. Now, are we talking about like allergies? Because I would agree that medicines are sold in non-lethal doses that would be lethal to those allergic. So that is a question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I guess I didn't really state at the beginning as like a caveat, but then again, I don't think anyone has commented yet. So if you don't abide by this caveat in your comment that you make later, that's because you didn't watch the video, and shame on you for jumping to comment before you watch the video. For shame, hypothetical YouTube user, who I now judge harshly. Okay, here we go. Also, if you're watching this from the distant future in like the year 30,000, hi. I've been dead for a while, I think, probably, but nice to meet you. All right.
Let's, even if just one of those little bacteria dudes is naturally immune to a new antibiotic we make, just one out of 1,000,000.
How that happened?
All his 999.
Right. Why does that exist?
1,999 friends
Predict
are going
we
to
will
die.
not get an answer.
Yeah.
But he'll be left. This one little one out of 1,000,000 bacteria. He is naturally. Is there anybody in here that's immune to
Finish your sentence. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna let him get with the next one. But like, I hate unfinished sentences that are just left hanging there. It's like,
Hey, look at what he's doing right
if
now.
this one little bacteria. Hey, does anyone? No. If this one little bacteria, what? Finish this. My goodness, this guy's gonna. This guy's gonna kill me.
poison ivy? Anyone immune to poison ivy? There you go. You got you got 3 guys and one woman.
Wonder
Well,
why.
if
I'm glad that we were accounting for them by sex. That's very useful information for this.
Be a Y chromosome thing you got going on there.
Yes, it's a rare mutation on the Y chromosome. Otherwise,
poison ivy resistant.
the vernal bead. Yes, I have heard of Reacteria. I think I've watched all of it. No, it's a fun show. I hadn't heard of that guy who does it before he started doing it, but there you go.
everybody died from poison ivy poisoning, is this your
Died? Poison ivy is not general. Does Bat Jackson know what things are lethal as like just a general rule of thumb? Or
I think he's trying to make an analogy here about like
yes, but like
he's like drawing an analogy between like people with poison ivy.
but then he's going to like, what if
versus-
everyone died of poison ivy? And it's like, that's
Yeah,
not the
it's a silly
normal
analogy.
that's not the normal
But, like-
prognosis for a poison ivy outbreak.
I mean, yes, but like I see where he's going with this.
I guess it just feels to me like Dr. Jackson stumbles through a world in which innocuous things might be horribly lethal, and that he's just a paranoid like shell of a human, and like every random sound fills him with existential terror. Maybe that's just how I like to think about him.
You're telling me the guy who like went back to the past to save Jesus, terrified of absolutely everything.
He had to bring a Power Rangers robot with him, so
You're right, that was his protection. My bad.
yeah, he rebuilt Evil Tommy and then reprogrammed him to protect him. Okay, one of the Evil Tommies. The Evil Tommy from Super Ninja Steel. That was it, I think. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. Yell at me and tell me how it was actually like season 1 of Beast Morphers, which no, it wasn't. So screw you. Anyway,
wife? Okay, you're gonna have to get a gun.
what?
Hopefully, it won't take 3 months to get one. Sorry, I'm getting political now.
Was that like a prepper joke?
I think it was.
Okay, well, his
Yikes.
audience laughed, so I guess it was a prepper joke.
Yeesh.
Look,
Yeesh.
I'm not going to tell people not to prepare for a disaster, but if you think that, like, complete anarchy and Mad Max is around the corner, you're probably wrong.
Imagine thinking 3 months is too long to wait to get a deadly weapon. Imagine thinking that. Like, yikes. Frickin' yikes, man.
Yeah.
Look, what if the whole world was covered with poison ivy? It sounds like a Stephen King novel. Ivy. You know, new horror
That was a joke that didn't land. Taking a drink.
That was a joke that didn't land.
movie. Ivy. The world's covered with ivy. If that...
Wait, no, that is a movie. Oh, what's it called? Is it The
Stephen King
Ruins?
movie?
No. Is it The
I have
Ruins?
no
Yeah,
idea.
it's The Ruins. 2008 horror film where the monster is
Well, there's-
Ivy. That's gonna receive like a 6.5 out of 10 for me. It was pretty good. It was a little bit of a simple plot. It also kind of leaned in a little bit, unfortunately, on like stereotypes of like both white people visiting Hispanic areas or Latin areas and the Latin people
no.
in them.
Oh, no.
And the cast was a little bit, or not the cast, but the main characters were a little bit too boringly horror movie cliche. But still, it has an interesting threat. The rules were reasonably well set up. There was some pretty good foreshadowing. The acting wasn't terrible, despite the kind of boringness of the characters. The effects were pretty decent, mostly practical. Some pretty good gore, if you like that. Yeah. Anyway, so good job there, Bad Jackson. You managed to pitch a movie that already exists, but it's a decent movie.
happened, all of us normal ivy non-resistant people would itch to death. The only people that would be left would be people who were immune to poison ivy. And in every crowd, there's always a couple of people. So all you ivy-resistant people would be the last people, the last men and women on Earth, and you'd just multiply, and of course, you'd give that resistance to all your children.
Now, would that constitute a change in allele frequency in a population?
I believe it would.
Okay, what's the minimal definition for evolution?
I believe it's the change in allele frequency in a population over generations.
Okay, now he's presuming that this change happens over generations, is he not?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so we could
Mentioned,
safely call his hypothetical evolution.
I think that would be a pretty safe bet, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because, you know.
He's right there. He's like at the door.
Yep.
What he is supposed to be
Yep.
like
and,
the answer.
And Vishanti asks,
Question.
isn't he describing natural selection? Yeah, this entire time
He
he's
is.
basically been like, hey, when evolution occurs via natural selection, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
And like not really giving an explanation for that, just saying it doesn't count.
Answer to like why is this considered evolution is right there in front of him. You just gotta reach just a little bit farther.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself, why are they resistant, whereas the others are not? What's the difference between these people?
Yep.
Ask the question.
And evolutionists would say, look, a new race has evolved.
I mean,
I don't
here
think
in
so.
2021, that's not the terminology that's like prevalent, but I mean,
If you're Richard Dawkins, sure, but if you're not,
I don't even think Richard Dawkins uses the word that way.
no, he wouldn't.
Yeah, like even
No one does.
Richard Dawkins is he's got some hot takes on the issue of human races, but even he would probably
Basically
not
a
have,
race realist.
yeah, even he would not have. I don't think would call that a new race. But
No one would.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I mean, Charles Darwin probably would have, but you know, we don't use that
Yeah,
word that
race.
way.
Yeah, you're right. It meant something different. So
Yeah.
you know.
It's semantic shift, which for those of you who aren't big on linguistics, all semantic shift means is that a single word can, without significantly changing in like pronunciation or anything, can still change in its meaning. So what it means now isn't what it really meant at the time. For instance, right now, probably all of you think of broadcasting as just the word for when you send like radio waves out that carry either radio or TV signals. But did you know that broadcasting originally meant scattering your seed corn in a rather haphazard manner without a careful pattern?
Did not.
Yeah, it's a farming term. And you can see why the analogy to radio transmissions might come in. But yeah, that's an example of semantic shift. Now, very few people talk about broadcasting as a farming technique. Now, in many cases, we even talk about things like what I'm doing is broadcasting, even though not technically broadcasting. I'm actually very narrowcasting. I'm only casting to the YouTube ingest server, and it's only broadcasting, if you can even call it that. It's only uploading to you guys individually. Anyone who's not watching this you can't just get it by turning a knob and flicking a machine on. You have to specifically request this. But still, I might call it broadcasting. And I still haven't planted a single kernel of wheat. I'm sorry, Jackson. I know your family would be disappointed.
Well, then you'll just join me in that,
Well, in my defense, wheat doesn't grow well around here.
Doesn't it grow like tomatoes and cotton and tobacco here? So
Rice. There's a lot of rice there.
That's more down south. More swampy areas where they grow the rice.
Ah. I remember when I was doing some papers in my various American history classes, and I had to actually check actual survey data and stuff, and found out that surprisingly high proportion of the enslaved population of the United States was doing rice plantation stuff, which you don't actually hear about in history books very much. And I think that our education about things like that should include the hardships on rice paddies, because that's a whole different set of horribleness. You ever had your feet wet for 40 hours? It's not good. Anyway.
Oh, the characteristic trait was already there. Same thing with these bacteria. 1 out of 1,000,000 little bacteria, guys. And he only survives because he's naturally immune, just like some of the IV people in here are naturally immune. And he reproduces. How do bacteria reproduce?
If he gets this wrong, oh my goodness.
There's no way.
I'm gonna let him explain it. And then when he's done, we're gonna take a break, and hopefully we won't need to correct it.
They divide. They split in half. Yeah. And, now you have 2. Now you have 4. I'm going to drop the microphone.
Okay, so there is some budding, and what he's saying is it wrong, but it's extremely simplified. But okay,
Sure.
But you get it.
We'll finish.
Then you have 8, and then you have 16, and then you have 32.
Only if none of them die. But okay, yeah, I guess sure. We'll take a drink for not being completely bonkers, being overly simplistic about it. But okay, I get it. There you go. And Venerable Beat asks, is Dawkins actually a race realist? I'm not inside Dawkins' head, but some of the things he said, it would be hard to interpret as not coming from the standpoint of race realism.
I mean, it is, in all honesty, in today's world, it's a pretty rare position among biologists. In the time when Dawkins was in school, it was not.
That's true.
You have to remember that also.
Yeah, although it would be nice if he kept up on the literature there. Or at least kept up with someone who did.
Well, I mean, he has his little areas, because if you read his books, for instance, we're doing the Ancestors' Tale series on my channel. He updated it from 2004 to 2014, I believe. So, clearly, he can keep up with the literature in some areas, but he has his little niches where he wants to stay.
All right, so I want to point out, because Jackson mentioned his channel, that it is linked in the description. So if for some unfathomable reason you haven't subscribed to Jackson Wheat, 1, how dare you? 2,
How dare you?
who do you think you are? And 3, what gives you the right? With that, we're going to go to break. Okay, well, once again, that was me sucking at producing, because apparently I suck at this whole thing. Sorry about that. But for $2, my unfinished journey says, love you, Daps. Heading to Jackson's channel to sub. Well, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Then, Vandeli1998 for $10 says, if you want more Jackson, the good one in 4 days, check out his take on the Permian, 12/4/21, 9 p.m. EST. Spoilers, it does not have a happy ending. With the Mothra emoji, which means we drink for the Mothra emoji. Thank you very much, Vandeli1998. Yeah, you know what? Pour one out for the poor, like, non-mammaliform therapsids at the end of the Permian. Except for, I guess, the Dicynodonts. They did pretty well. Till they get to the Triassic. Then it didn't go very well for them at all. Actually, that reminds me, when I was in Houston, I went to the museum there. And I was there with a friend of mine. And we were walking around the paleontology exhibit, and he kept pointing to very large skeletons and asking me, okay, well, this is a dinosaur, right? I'm like, no. And so finally, when we get to like a Placerius and like a Smilasuchus in like a fight on the Mount of Skeletons, he's like, okay, look, this has to be a dinosaur. I'm like, no. And when do we get to the dinosaurs? And I point ahead, I'm like, over there. We're not even out of the Permian yet. Or Triassic yet, sorry. Anyway. Also, I'm going to be putting up a poll soon about whether or not I should have a Festivus episode. Because, you know, Jackson, I got some grievances.
Guarding.
All sorts of things, and I need to air them. And the time for that is Festivus. So...
Fair enough.
Yeah, and we're going to have a Festivus poll if I do it. And an airing of grievances, and perhaps even great feats of strength. Here we go. More Bad Jackson.
They can do this every 15 or 20 minutes in a warm, nutrient-rich environment like your bloodstream. In 8 hours, there'll be 1 million of them again.
I mean, I have no idea about the time span there, but like, okay.
8 hours, and they'll all look like Mama, and they all are immune to the new drug.
I think that was supposed to be a joke. I'm going to take a drink.
I don't think it landed.
No.
Look, a new race of bacteria has evolved.
Oh my goodness.
See? No, does this require a new gene?
I mean, it depends. At some point, that gene had to come into existence. What you mean by new is completely arbitrary. New doesn't mean anything, actually, unless you give it a specific definition. Did it require that new gene to come about in that one individual who happened to survive? No, it didn't.
Yeah, it was there were probably a series of potentiating mutations preceded it. Then a final mutation or set of mutations occurred, which conferred this novel phenotype.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Silver Harlow asks if the text in the lower third reads and the answer is yes. There you go. Way to... Are you not watching the watch link? If you had that up, you would see the Klingon on screen.
Even if I saw that, I don't read Klingon, so it would mean nothing.
Well,
to
that's
me.
not my fault you don't read Klingon. I've been telling you to take the language for years.
For years.
I mean, that's mostly an allusion to The Office, but sure, why not? Also, for $4.99 US, Scott Duke says, Jackson Wheat, co-author The Rocks Were There, Volume 1, with R.J. Downard, ordered a copy today, makes a great stocking stuffer. It'll also fill up that entire stocking, because that thing is a big book.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate you. You got my back.
All right, here we go. More Bad Jackson.
Any new DNA? Is it even a new trait? No. This is usually what is happening. So if they give you an antibiotic and one of these little guys survives, they'll call it a superbug because the only one left is this huge family that is now growing, and all of them in this new family is immune. Now, this is why, if they didn't believe in evolution so much, they might actually treat people properly. If someone...
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I'm still a little... He said a big family.
I think he's just
That is-
analogizing because they're all descendants from that one bacterium, which I guess
You're right.
technically would make them a family, right? Like not in the taxonomic sense, but in like the sort of
Sure,
like
yeah.
more like
guess you're right.
down to earth human sense. Like,
Lineage.
oh, hey, my family is, you know, my grandparents and my children and my grandchildren and their cousins and
Right, it's a lineage, yeah.
yeah.
It's got a bacterial or disease infection, they should hit you with at least 2 antibiotic drugs. What's the chance that a little 1 out of a million guy would be immune to both of the ones?
Here,
Probably-
actually,
Oh,
depends very much on what you're hitting it with.
mm-hmm.
Which is why you have to use a crap load of antibiotics now to treat stuff.
Yeah, it's actually one of the reasons why broad spectrum antibiotics are a thing.
Ah,
But here's another
this
thing.
man really said, why aren't... he really just said, why aren't they using broad spectrum antibiotics? Like,
Yeah, well, first of all,
What?
they are. I'll just take a drink for just the idea that maybe that isn't a thing in medicine.
he's like, guys, I'm proposing this idea. What if?
What if broad spectrum antibiotics? Vandelli 1998 for $2 says you should translate the rocks were there to Klingon. If you pay me, it's going to be an expensive thing to do because that's a lot of work.
Yeah. Christ.
You're like we're probably talking. You're probably going to have to give me like a full-time salary. So, if you're willing to do that for probably a few years, then sure I will.
I'm still marveling over the fact that this man thinks he has proposed
Something new.
new
With broad spectrum
Or-
antibiotics.
or a drug cocktail. That's another thing. Like,
Right.
if you just try to treat something that has like a beta lactamase with, you throw penicillin and methicillin at it, doesn't work. What? He's like, I'm out of ideas.
That's
We got no more options.
yeah. Your doctor's done at that point. They just pack up and leave.
Right.
Oh man. Here's another thing though. Why do we still sometimes prescribe a single antibiotic for a single infection? Well, first, when that happens, it's usually not a very serious infection, right? It's usually something that would probably clear on its own if you gave it enough time. For instance, like generally speaking, if you leave strep throat untreated, it's going to go away. You're going to clear it out eventually. It's going to suck and it's going to take a while. But chances are you're not going to die from strep throat even if you don't treat it. Now, my advice is if you're sick, go see a doctor. Not, oh, Dapper said that I'd probably be okay. Yeah, don't, just still go see a doctor because you never know. Anyway, but for things that are likely not life-saving and they're not in like a hospital where it could easily spread to other people for whom it might be life-saving, you might only prescribe one antibiotic specifically because people tend not to finish their antibiotic courses. They tend to throw them out after they start feeling better, which can increase resistance. If you had someone do that with a broad spectrum antibiotic where they were just like, oh, you're just going to give them like 12 different antibiotics, but only in normal doses over the course of like 2 months or something, where for their, well, not 2 months, but a few weeks for their strep throat, you might be encouraging multiple antibiotic resistance in streptococcus, which, why would you do that? Just don't do that. That's a bad idea. Don't make that. Please. Anyway, we have another super chat for $4.99 from Robert Birkinson, who says, I made a video debunking the globe earth on my channel that I know nobody can debunk. I'd like to see anybody try. Well, if you would like to go debunk the globe earth, the flat earth, check Robert Perkinson's channel. If one of my mods wants to find it and verify that it is what he says it is, feel free to link it. I don't normally debunk flat earth. I debunk the equally nonsensical idea of young earth creationism primarily. But, I mean, maybe I'll check it out. Sorry. I did debate, Flat Earth Aussie twice.
You did.
Twice.
God, what a chat that was.
Yeah. Probably never again. Although it was hilarious to see him flail to try to defend the flat earth. against an equally valid flat Earth model that disagreed with his own. That was fun. And by equally valid, I mean very, very invalid. But anyway, here we go.
Some other guy off in the corner is immune to that. I think we ought to give people a battery of 5 antibiotics every time we treat someone with bacteria.
God, no. I'm taking a drink for Dr. Charles Jackson, who isn't an MD, thinking that he knows how to properly treat your strep throat, or your ear infection. Just no.
This man is like, we're gonna treat everything with broad spectrum. No, that's not a terrible idea.
Goodness, how could anything go wrong?
I mean, that's literally exactly what happened with penicillin.
Yeah.
Treat everything with penicillin, and everything will become immune to penicillin.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
good luck with that.
Man. I just hope that there's no MDs listening to him, to Dr. Jackson, unironically. Oh my goodness.
Good thing his is in like education, which even still yikes, but at least it's not in medicine.
His whole point here is, gee, you know what? I just figured out something obvious that all the doctors in the entire world have missed. I'm a genius. If you ever find yourself thinking that, chances are you're actually an idiot. Just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Is it impossible that you're right? No, it's not impossible. However, like I said, chances are extremely good that you were the dummy in that conversation.
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Evolutionists say, no, you're just going to make them all evolve to be... No, it'll kill every single one of them, and nobody's going to evolve.
It literally doesn't. We have patients who fail to respond to broad spectrum antibiotics. That's a thing. I'm taking a drink because, oh my goodness.
Does he think like all
What
the
do you think
doctors are
MRSA
like
is?
sort of a cabal?
I don't.
Or just
I don't
treating
even know.
evolution at the cost of their own patients? Is that like what he thinks is happening? I don't
Maybe.
understand.
But the thing is, what MRSA is the thing that he's talking about won't happen. MRSA exists, therefore Dr. Charles Jackson is wrong about this. We already know he's wrong because it exists. You know what do you know what MRSA stands for? Multiple resistance staphylococcus. You know what the resistance is to?
What?
Antibiotics. It's a strain of staphylococcus that, while not as virulent and damaging as most other strains would be untreated, is nearly impossible to treat in the first place. Therefore, it's extremely dangerous, especially to patients in the hospital who are often in a compromised state already. And the hospital is where it thrives. Yeah, it's actually a really big problem. I know people who work in hospitals, and that's one of the things that happens in there that's the one thing they worry about a lot, because there's any breach in hygiene can just cause a MRSA outbreak, and there's no easy way to fix it. And if you don't take care of your own personal medical hygiene, you could be the reason for a MRSA outbreak that could kill numerous people. That's a stressor for a lot of people, and legitimately so. Here we go.
Yeah.
They're all going to die. You see, and that's using the creationist paradigm in medical technology versus the evolutionary paradigm.
Work.
Right? You know what?
I
agree with Jackson, though. That is what that is. I'll take a drink.
I mean,
And yeah, it's a terrible idea.
What is it? What is it called? R/technically correct.
Right?
I mean, he's not wrong.
Right,
But
that's why I took the drink.
why it doesn't work. So,
Oh my
says-
goodness.
are few more stark examples of the evolution paradigm versus the creationist paradigm, and which will kill you faster.
Yeah. Oh, and the Venerable Bede says that his grandpa has MRSA, and he will be getting breakouts constantly, and he gets a big sore on his shin. Yeah, that's not a fun time. And I think we might be buffering. Might be happening again. All right, well, I think I'm kind of back. We are doing a little bit of shaky connection to the ingest server. But hey, at least if it really, really crashes, we're gonna push through unless people really, really, really complain about it.
Which is not working they're terrified of the wrong things, and they're not treating diseases properly for pandemic purposes.
For the COVID-19. So he's not talking about COVID-19. Oh, I think I disconnected from Jackson Wheat. Okay, well, give me a second, guys. I'm going to go to an intermission real quick and see what the heck is going on.
Does the stream you're viewing currently has reduced video or audio quality? This may be due to network connections.
Oh, maybe my internet is being weird today. Okay, well, it might be me. But Vandalia1990 for $2 says, some places are using phages instead of antibiotics. Yeah, that's true. So bacteriophages are viruses that attack bacteria. And because the bacteriophage can itself evolve, it's harder for the bacteria to actually develop a resistance because there's an arms race there. So, yeah. And yeah, it is buffering. I am now. Oh, man. Jackson, are you cursed? All right, I'm going to go for
Louisiana.
I don't think it's your fault.